The sheep squatch is a woolly cryptid that has been reported in several West Virginia counties, mostly in the southwestern part of the state. You can guess what it looks like, a Sasquatch, but sheepish. It is described as being about the size of a bear on 4 legs with completely white woolly fur. It has a long pointed snout reminiscent of a dog, but with long saber-like teeth and horns similar to a goat. Its front limbs end in paw-like hands, similar to those of a raccoon but larger. While its tail is long and hairless like a possum, it is said to smell of sulfur, which has been popularly attributed in folklore to the animal being born in the TNT area of Mason County, also suggested to be similar to a musk scent gland found in animals like the skunk. In 1994, a former Navy sailor reported seeing the beast running through the woods. The white creature came out of the forest and knelt down to drink from the stream for a couple of minutes before crossing the stream and continuing along a nearby road. The witness said he watched the animal for some time before it walked out of sight into the forest. That year, 2 children in Boone County saw the creature while playing in their yard. What they saw looked like a large polar bear, but in this case it was standing on its hind legs, making it over 6 feet tall. The animal, frightened by the children, ran into the forest, breaking sticks from trees as it pushed its way through. Then the creature was spotted a year later. A couple driving through Boone County spotted a large white beast sitting in a ditch on the side of the road. They stopped their car to get a better look. They described it as similar to previous descriptions, but they added that the creature had 4 eyes, in contrast to the last encounter where the sheep squatch ran away afraid of children. This time the creature jumped out of the ditch and attacked the car. Frightened by the attack, the couple quickly drove away. When they checked their car for damages after returning home, they found large scratches on the side where the animal had attacked. Another incident in 1999 involved a couple of campers who were in the woods overnight around a campfire in Boone County. They heard an animal snorting and scuffling around the camp, similar to a pissed-off bear, though it did not immediately come into the light of the fire where the campers could see it. Suddenly, Sheep Squatch came running out of the darkness towards them. They jumped up and ran back into their house while the Sheep Squatch chased after them. The white creature stopped at the edge of the forest as they ran and gave a terrible scream. Then it went back into the forest. The next morning, the campers returned to their campsite. They found it torn apart. They referred to it as if someone had prepared the land for gardening. In Folks Run, Virginia, the beast was spotted again in the Appalachian forest. 6 campers spending the night in the dense forest spotted the creature around midnight. The animal was said to be 8 to 9 feet tall with a shoulder width of 4 to 5 feet. One of the campers first saw the animal crouching atop a nearby hill. He got up and signaled to the other campers. It then started running down the steep hill towards them, only to be separated by a river flowing between them. They watched in horror as it looked for a way to cross. It began to wade through the river. It emerged from the water. They said it looked like a two-legged dog. No idea why they were watching it instead of running. Then there was a loud noise about 2 miles from where they were. The sheep squatch looked up in shock. It let out a pitiful whimper, and then it ran off in the opposite direction of the noise. The campers packed up and left, then reported the matter to the locals, fearing they would be ridiculed if they reported it to the authorities. A humanoid was observed by a common man named Filberto Caponi in early summer of 1993. In the small Italian village, 23-year-old Filberto was driving home around 11:30 p.m. Just as he parked his car in the garage, he heard a very strange scream from somewhere in the surrounding countryside. The initial investigation was led by the Italian National Council of Universities and included several inspections, interviews with Filberto and his family. At the end of the investigation, they had a detailed report on the case, but they did not come to a firm conclusion. Other investigators approached Filberto and received similar statements to what he gave the National Council of Universities. Some investigators said they were convinced of the sincerity of the witness describing his encounter. Filberto said, "I first thought it was a small cat complaining, trapped in a plastic bag. It was the evening of May 9th in 1993. As usual, I got out of my car and I was closing the garage just nearby when I heard the cry. Different from those typical of usual animals, I was also thinking that it may be a drunk coming down from the same road making noises. Then I saw a creature. It seemed to me that the strange complaint came from it. Smiling as I thought I had found an abandoned cat wrapped in a plastic bag, I stretched a hand out to touch it, but on reflection I stopped because it occurred to me that it might scratch me. So I limited myself and gave the bag a little kick to see if it would come out on itself. I was terrified because the old plastic bag jumped up, showing that it had a head, arms, and legs. It raised from the ground and ran. It was quite fast. It had wrapped legs and it carried something that it tripped on. It looked like a bag that it had on its back. It was not skin. I only saw the skin of its head and from its small arms, which it did not use and did not move. After the first encounter, Filberto developed an unexplainable blackening of the skin on the leg he used to kick the creature, which faded after 3 days. Filberto thought he was just confused. Though still frightened by the encounter, he reopened the garage, got into his car to listen to the radio to calm down and think. I thought to myself that maybe what I saw wasn't there, that I was tired, that it must be some kind of animal. At home, however, his mother noticed that something was wrong as he was very pale. She managed to get her son to talk about what had happened. With his father, he went back to the site of the encounter to see if they could find any remnants of the animal. On the wall behind which the creature disappeared, the father found medical gauze covered in fluid, but he did not take it home because it was disgusting, but left it outside under an old washing machine, intending to send it for analysis. That night he heard the cry again down the road, but this time he did not see anything. He explained to himself that it was nothing and it was impossible. Filberto said, "My father was there so that I could show him, and I have said to him, I have heard it, but I do not know where it is. And he told me to go up to my room because from there we could see better." We stayed up there for roughly an hour. Then my father was tired and went back to bed again. Just at that moment, the thing reappeared. I called my father, and so he has been able to see it too. For a moment, while it went away under that arch in a blink of an eye, and my father looked at me if he wanted to say, "You were so not joking." Anyway, he told me to go back to bed because it was late, 3 in the morning. The next morning, Filberto's sister went to check on the gauze, but it was gone. It must have been a dog that smelled the fluid on the gauze, says Filberto. When I decided to borrow my brother-in-law's camera, I put it right on the nightstand for a week. I was waiting there thinking that maybe the creature will come again and I will be able to get a photo of it. 15 days passed and nothing happened. So Filberto decided to forget everything. Then one night, it was approximately 2 in the morning and I heard the strange scream again. I sat up, took the camera, and opened the door. While I felt that something was walking, I sat up, took the camera, and opened the door. While I felt that something was walking in the yard, I saw it arrive. I took the first photo, which the Polaroid ejected. I got ready to take another photo. In the light of the flash, it had stopped, as if it had noticed the light. Maybe, but it must have been deaf, because I had made some noise when I opened the door, and it continued to come in my direction. It had stopped and turned around only when I took the photo. I have thought I will take a photo and run after it. This is a unique opportunity. And what I did, I went towards it, advancing a few meters. I photographed it again, and then I ran off screaming, "I have photographed it," without watching where I went, so I ended up against a wall. My father woke up and asked me what had happened. The photos developed under the eyes of my relatives. On the first one, only a dark shadow was visible, but on the second, the head and the hanging arms wrapped with something were visible. I looked at it intensely. I explained that when I have taken the second photo, it had slightly turned its head towards me, without turning its body at all. My father felt it was quite a hair raiser. My mother said, "Oh my God, what is he?" And then I had calmed down, and I told them a lot of it in the photos. Let's put them in a secured place. Let's not have everyone see them. And we decided to put them in a wooden box in order to study them with a calm mind the next day. But the next afternoon I found the cover of the box curved, blackened underneath, filled with smoke. I asked what can have happened. Then I opened it and feel a smell of burnt, similar to burned plastic's odor. The photo was burned around and where the being was shown. It was swollen and ruined. I detached the second photo and the image was also only swollen on the surface. It was not destroyed. Later, the researchers tried to determine if the destroyed photos were specifically targeted and considered the possibility that the film may have been in the Polaroid for a long time and may have expired. But the hypothesis of deterioration due to normal aging turned out to be useless because all the pictures were taken with the same film and some did not deteriorate at all. The only possible explanation that remained was a chemical interaction between the photographs and the old decaying battery in the wooden box where the photographs were kept, which Filberto also suggested. The problem is that all the material, including the wooden box, has been handed over to the police when they were first released. In addition, it must be emphasized that Filberto circulated the photographs in Roman newspapers. I have made a big mistake. The day when I went to a friend and told him all about it, he had sworn to me that he would not tell a word about it. But one evening he was drinking, and 3 days later the whole country knew the story, and the newspaper called me to publish the burnt photos. The story continued to spread, even if many did not believe it, and created legends. One evening I went to town and encountered the friend who had spilled the story out. In spite of that, I have made peace with him, and we were walking outside with 2 others, and then all of us heard the scream coming from behind the gate of a house. We decided to go check it out, and then I began to climb up while a friend remains a little behind. And when we get close to the direction of the complaint, it stops immediately. When we return to the bar and some sort of expedition gets organized with others, in all 15 to 20 people, some of them with knives, everyone excited, flashlights and cameras. One of them has a hunting dog. We all go back to the gate. We hear the cry, and the dog heads on and leaves us, crosses the gate, and begins to bark, nearly as if fighting, and there are more and more screaming. Then the dog jumps down the road, throwing itself from a wall, falls on its back, stands upon its hind legs again, and flees to hide in a corner. The other people present begin to look at me speechless, but when I propose to locate the source of the sound in order to discover what it is, they all say no. However, from that moment, people in the area begun to believe me a little. Over time, a feeling spreads in the country that something strange and interesting is really happening. Then on August 8th, another unusual occurrence happens in the village. Many chickens mysteriously pass away. Some of them suffer amputation of their limbs or head, without any body fluid or bite marks. They were found piled up. It is strange, as it is hard to imagine what a predator like a fox would do something like this. On August 11th, Filberto was outside on a bench watching the shooting stars. It was 5 a.m, and all at once by the garage door I saw again that white pack moving. At the start I thought it was my cat, but then looking with more attention I understood it was it again, seated and looking around. Then I went into the house, grabbed the Polaroid camera and looked at it through the window. It was still there, so I went down and took one photo of it. In the light of a flash, the being turns its head, tilts its back, and turns to run away. He describes the creature. The head is spherical with 2 frontal eyes going to the sides. They are fixed and seen at close range. They are similar to the eyes of a fly, honeycombed. With many black points, he appears polished, almost as if it was made of plastic. The face did not show any movement except that the mouth opened and closed with regularity. The mouth is wet of salivation and hard gums. I have seen no teeth, no tongue. The head was turning regularly, but it did not seem only to watch me, more as if by curiosity or alarm. The mouth is seen from the side, has a vague shape of a beak and reminds me of a turtle's. The rough skin looks scratchy, while the skin visible on the head is completely smooth. The head and chest have spots of white and yellow color. The legs are thin and have muscles. It has 3-fingered hands, but does not move them. It also does not move the arms. They are frail. The hands appear atrophied. Filberto said, "What worries me is that these facts are not considered with the importance it deserves. It is only discussed in tabloid newspapers. But it is also true that nobody was really interested, with few exceptions. As for the presumed UFOologists that contacted me repeatedly, few trusted me. If someone thinks I hoaxed it, I will challenge that. Or you can make your own investigations and draw your own conclusions."